What if I told you that some of the things you do every single day, your habits, your thoughts, even those little quirks you have, are actually secret signs of high intelligence? Yeah, I'm not talking about grades or test scores. I'm talking about real psychological patterns that science actually links to a much sharper mind.
I mean, for decades, we've all been taught to answer yes to this question, right? But what if that's only a tiny, tiny part of the picture? Okay, let's really dive into this and see what modern psychology has to say about it.
So, on one hand, you've got that traditional view, right? It's all about what you can prove on paper grades, tests, the whole shebang. But the psychological view, which is where we're going today, is so much deeper. It suggests that real intelligence, well, it shows up in how you think, how you observe the world, and even in how you feel.
All right, first up, let's look inward, because how you talk to yourself, how you process your own thoughts, that's one of the most powerful indicators there is.
You know that thing where you find yourself replaying conversations in your head? Or maybe you're deconstructing why a movie scene worked so well? Well, that's not always anxiety. For a lot of highly intelligent people, it's actually this constant, deep-seated curiosity that's just driving them to understand the mechanics of everything.
And believe it or not, psychologists actually have a name for this. It's called cognitive reflection. It's that moment, that split second where you pause instead of just reacting. You choose to question your own gut feeling. And that ability, the ability to think past the obvious, is a huge part of solving really complex problems. Yeah, this quote just nails it. See, reacting is our default setting. It's our automatic pilot. But reflection, that's a conscious choice. It's a choice to pause, to challenge your own assumptions, and to look for a better, more nuanced answer. It's like a mental muscle that really intelligent people are exercising all the time.
Okay, this next one might feel a little backward. How on earth could self-doubt be a sign of intelligence? I know, it sounds like the total opposite, right? But here's the thing. It's not about a lack of confidence. It's about intellectual honesty. It's about having a really realistic map of what you know, and maybe even more importantly, what you don't know. And yep, there's a term for this too. Intellectual humility. It's that powerful self-awareness to actually see the edges of your own knowledge. So that little voice in your head that sometimes says, I'm not so sure about this. That's not weakness. That's actually the starting pistol for learning. It's the very thing that keeps your mind open and hungry for more. And this contrast is just fascinating, isn't it? On one side, you have intellectual humility. And on the other, you have the famous Dunning-Kruger effect, where people with the least knowledge often have the most confidence. So the big takeaway here is that admitting I don't know isn't a failure of intelligence at all. It's the absolute foundation of it. It's what gives knowledge room to grow. Okay, so we've talked about the internal stuff, and that's all super important. But how does that actually translate to the outside world? Let's move on and talk about how intelligent people see and process everything around them. Are you one of those people who just loves learning random facts? You find yourself falling down these internet rabbit holes, or you're just constantly asking why? Well, guess what? That isn't a lack of focus. It's a really powerful sign of intellectual hunger. Psychologists have a great name for this. Openness to experience. It's a personality trait that's all about imagination and curiosity. And what's really cool is that research from the University of London actually found a direct link between people who score high on this trait and people who have higher IQs. How cool is that? So this is a fantastic way to reframe it. The next time you feel like your mind is jumping all over the place, just remember this. You're not distracted. Your brain is just hungry for more information. Think of it as intellectual exploration, not just aimless wandering. All right, here's another one. Smart people don't always have to be the loudest person in the room. In fact, a lot of the time, they're the quietest ones, because they get a simple truth. You learn way more by listening than you ever will by speaking. But this isn't just passive hearing, okay? It's active observation. It's a real skill that mixes raw intelligence with emotional awareness. While everyone else is just hearing words, a smart observer is processing all the data that comes along with those words. And this really gets to what's happening under the surface. It's not just about the words being said. They're analyzing the tone of voice. They're picking up on subtle emotional cues. They're tracing the logic of an argument. It's like they're gathering data on multiple frequencies all at once. Okay, let's talk about our final trait. And this one is one of the most common, but it's also one of the most misunderstood. It's all about the power of solitude. So if you're someone who genuinely enjoys your own company, you'd rather have a quiet evening in than go to a loud party,
Well, there's a really fascinating psychological reason for that. There was this key study in the British Journal of Psychology, and it found that highly intelligent people actually report being less satisfied with constant socializing. And the reason why is pretty amazing. It's because their brains crave the space that only solitude can provide. Space to connect ideas, to solve problems, and to just get into that deep thought zone.
And I love this quote. It's so on point. For a lot of people, being social is like plugging into a charger. It gives them energy. But for a highly intelligent mind, the real power up, that happens in the quiet moments. It's about depth over breadth, especially when it comes to recharging those mental batteries.
Okay, so let's bring this all home. How do all of these things that seem so separate, the overthinking, the curiosity, enjoying being alone, how do they all connect to paint this picture of high intelligence?
When you really look at it, you can see these traits aren't isolated at all. They actually create this powerful feedback loop. Think about it. Your curiosity drives you to learn something new. Your intellectual humility keeps you open to those new ideas. Your observation skills help you gather all the information. And then, solitude gives you the quiet space to connect all the dots. See? Each one fuels the next.
So here's the big takeaway, the thing I really want you to remember. If any of this stuff resonates with you, you're not weird, you're not antisocial, your brain might just be wired a little differently. It's wired to engage with the world on a much deeper, more analytical level.
Look, at the end of the day, this isn't just about spotting signs of intelligence. It's about actually cultivating it. So the real question I want to leave you with is this. Now that you know all this, what's one small thing you can do today to lean into these strengths and make your already sharp mind even sharper?